Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Electronic Waste Management Act Amendments Information Session. I am your moderator, Kathy Kunz, for today. I'm stepping in for Karen Clue, who is recovering from laryngitis. I'm a member of the training committee for the department. I'm here today along with Allison Stidworthy and Sue Shannon, who will be helping things run today. Next slide. Thank you. Along with the 35 of you in attendance in person here today, we have approximately 35 webinar attendees as well. I'd like to tell you that the webinar will be recorded and posted online at a later date. Both the audio and the slides will be available for your use. They'll likely end up on the SRP training website. That will be communicated to you all in an email at a later date. Next slide, please. A few important reminders. Please mute your cell phones, everyone. Mark, mute your cell phone. If you feel compelled to accept a phone call or engage in a conversation, please take it outside to the main lobby, not this lobby of this public hearing room, but the main lobby. Also, for your information, the restrooms are located out this hallway, down the left and on the right-hand side. Questions and answers will be accepted at the end of all sessions, so please hold your questions till the very last presentation is over. The reason that we're asking you to do that is because we have confidence that Dana will answer all of your questions in her very involved speech. If you do have a question at the end, please wait until you have a microphone in front of you, and that will be run by Allison or Sue to your side. At that time, speak clearly into the microphone so this entire audience can hear you, as well as the webinar audience. We appreciate that. To our webinar participants, please wait for the question period to open up on your laptop, and at that time you can type in your question. We'll read it aloud and answer it as best as we can. With that, I would like to introduce Mark Peterson, who is the Assistant Commissioner of the Site Remediation and Waste Management Program. Mark, I knew that. Next slide, Anthony.
Thank you. I intentionally broke my foot so I could get your sympathy while I was up here. Oh, the guy, you cannot talk. Good afternoon, everyone. And good afternoon to everyone on the webinar also. As you know, in January, the governor signed amendments to the New Jersey Electronic Waste Management Act. These amendments strengthen the DEP's authority to require manufacturers to implement and finance the collection and transportation and recycling of covered electronic devices. I think it's important for all of you to know what today's meeting is and what also today's meeting is not. Today's meeting, the intent of this was to basically appraise all of you of three main points. One, to provide you with specific information on the new amendments, on how we will implement these amendments in the current e-waste program, and what to expect between now and January of 2018. That is our intent, to have the program fully implemented. One of the major changes that you'll get details on is the calculation of our manufacturers' collection responsibilities. Rather than meeting a set finite goal, The manufacturers of all covered electronic devices must now collect, recycle their respective market share of the actual weight of all of the covered electronic devices collected in the program year. Another change in is what is considered covered electronic devices. Desktop printers and fax machines are now included in that definition. Scott Brubaker will be following me. We'll give you some general overviews on those amendments. The department will be taking a phased approach in implementing these amendments into the e-waste program, and today you'll be provided with a timeline for that rollout. We anticipate the program, as I said earlier, to be fully implemented as of January of 2018. When the law came into play, staff came in and said, we're already behind. We said, I know, or I said, I know. I said, let's figure out how we can get it fully implemented by a certain date, and the goal that we have taken is January of 2018. Dana, who everyone I know is anticipating, much more than I, to hear all the details, will be up here and sort of providing you a lot of detailed insight into what we're doing and how we're doing it. Slide change. Did I get it? Nice. So as you can see from the slide, the e-waste program has been successful in recycling and has continued to increase. In 2010, 10 million pounds were collected before the e-waste program was implemented. In 2012, the total tonnage increased to 48 million pounds. By 2016, it was at 53.4. The goal for 2017, prior to fully implementing the law as we know it, is targeting around 54 million pounds. To meet this goal and to continue to increase recycling in the state, to successfully implement these amendments, we do need your help. This isn't a shallow comment. We need your input to make this succeed. We realize that we can't implement this law. It's up to the manufacturers, it's up to the county coordinators, it's up to the recyclers. Collectively, we have to work together, and we do want your input. Those people on the webinar, as said earlier, if you have those comments, give them to us at the end. These new amendments will lead to more and effective and convenient and smoother running e-waste program in the state of New Jersey. We are going to continue to communicate with all of you. We'll go through, probably in many instances, the county recyclers to coordinate our messages, but there'll be key individuals that will also engage as we go through this process. I just appreciate you all coming in on such a horrible day outside. I know you would all rather been here at 401 East State Street, like the gentleman back there I spoke to, than outside in the field and enjoying this beautiful weather. But just think, tomorrow it'll turn very humid and chance of thunderstorms. We got that going for us. So with that, I want to thank you, and I'd like to introduce Scott Brubaker. Scott Brubaker is a Deputy Director in the Solid Waste Program. I've had the pleasure of working with Scott, and I say that hesitantly, probably almost 30 years now. I also had the pleasure of, when Hurricane Sandy hit, going down to start up or stand up the Office of Governor's Office of Rebuilding and Recovery. And Scott and I were the two guys that didn't step back with everyone. So we ended up maintaining our existing jobs and going down and working in that office. So I have a great deal of respect for Scott. I know he's been intimate in the e-waste. I know you have. And I look forward to hearing from him and hearing all your comments. Thank you. Scott.
Thanks.
I don't know if it goes forward.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Thanks, Mark. And again, from myself, welcome to everybody, some friends out there in the audience. Thanks for coming into Trenton today to do this. My piece is relatively short. I'm just going to make a couple of points here today. And these are not things you don't know, but maybe a couple of them are more from the state's perspective than for yours. But first of all, why don't you go ahead and hit the next slide. Yep, okay. Why, from the state's perspective, the amendments were very necessary. Not only was there a kind of a financial change in the whole economics of the recycling due to the CRT glass prices and all that other stuff, several other things really called out for a freshening up of the e-waste amendments, and among them, the things that are listed, we really need to move away from the market share thing. We're losing our data nationally. It's cumbersome administratively for us to calculate that. We're really happy to go to the market share obligations, which the amendments do for us. Some experiences historically caused us to conclude that we really needed to move away from this finite obligation, that we would kind of do a per capita estimate of how much e-waste was going to be generated, kind of assign that out, and I guess hope that it was sufficient. So the new amendments, as you'll hear the details, really give us the authority to ask you to recycle all the waste that's actually generated in a program year. And so we think that that's a major upgrade and very necessary for the new amendments. As you know, the old statute, the old rule only required one collection site per county. We did not and do not think that that is neither sufficient nor convenient. So the amendments give us the authority to ask for more sites, which we have done, and the manufacturers have stepped up and done, which we appreciate, and most collection plans for 2017 have been approved. We thought we needed a better deterrent to ensure that the manufacturers ultimately met their obligation. We got a shortfall fee that's pretty draconian in nature, so you'll hear about it, but it's our hope that we never have to utilize that, except maybe to level the playing field from some manufacturers who are not stepping up and doing their fair share of the recycling. And then we needed the authority to establish a statewide plan if we need to, which we're not doing at this time, and we don't plan to do unless circumstances require that we do. We need to do that, and almost obviously, but we need a more comprehensive reporting system. The records that we were receiving just were not adequate for us to manage a program of this magnitude and this scope. So those are just a couple of the reasons why we think the new amendments were necessary. Next slide. Just have some simple goals for this program that I'm sure we all share. We do intend to fully implement and enforce the new amendments and the current program. We do intend it to be simple and convenient for our consumers out there. We do intend that it is cost effective for local governments and others to step up and sponsor, if you will, or run collection sites. We want lots of them to do that, so we want that to be a minimal expense to them to do that. And we've communicated our standards to that extent early this year in a letter out to everyone. We want the program to be efficient. Okay, there's no reason not to have an efficient program. We think it is, and we think it can be, and it's one of our goals that we want to recycle as much waste as efficiently as possible. And then we want a program, and I hope you do too, that is predictable and stable. Okay, let's go ahead and implement these changes. Let's digest them, but let's get to a point where we all are in a steady state of knowing what's coming, and let's run this program as the way it's intended to be. And let's get to that point. And today's a big step in doing that, okay? Next slide, please. Just a couple other points I want to make. DEP does intend to implement these amendments directly from the amendments, directly from the statute. And where there's any conflicts between the statute and the rules that we already have in place, the statute will prevail. If not in conflict, then the rules will still be in effect, and of course the statute will be implemented. We intend to continue to communicate with you, as Mark said, through our website and other means. We will keep you informed as the implementation of these amendments progresses. And again, I'll stress that the department only intends to implement a statewide standard plan if necessary. And may I say it for the first time, you'll hear it several times today. Don't say we didn't tell you, say we didn't warn you, but there's no mechanism to reimburse recycling accomplished outside of a state plan other than through the credit system. Don't send us a bill. We don't have any prices established. The system is going to happen, the recycling is going to happen through the manufacturer's collection program. That is our intention for this, to implement these amendments. Okay? And with that, I will turn it over to a much more detailed and precise discussion of how we intend to implement these amendments to Dana Lawson.
Hey everyone, thanks Mark and Scott for all the wonderful information, and thanks to all of you for being here in person and virtually on the webinar. So clearly there were obvious issues and challenges with the former law, and in the recent past I like to think that the department did a lot within the context of the old law by increasingly engaging all stakeholders, ramping up enforcement, and adding more staff to the E-Waste team, but these revisions take the cake. The revised law does a really nice job of incorporating changes that will stand the test of time. Personally, I'm excited to be here, and I hope to help make the process of complying with the revised law as clear and as easy as possible for all of you. Next slide. I know this appears small on the screen, but you have a handout as well. Since there were no transition provisions in the law, this chart outlines the phase-in implementation process. Certain elements of the law kick in 2017, and certain actions need to occur in 2017 in preparation to fully implement the law by January 1st, 2018. This is here for your reference. I will discuss each element in detail throughout this presentation. Next slide. Let's begin by running through statutorily established due dates. By January 1st annually, manufacturers must register and pay a $5,000 registration fee, and authorized recyclers that do not hold Class D electronic recycling approvals must also register and pay a $15,000 registration fee. By January 30th annually, the department will determine the market share for each manufacturer of covered electronic devices based on national sales data. Next slide. Semi-annual reports for the period ending January 1st are due on February 1st from manufacturers or group plan administrators, collection site locations in manufacturer plans, local government units, authorized recyclers, and statewide standard plan sites if and when the time comes. And the department will issue estimated market share and weight by February 15th. Next slide. By April 1st annually, the department will determine the total weight of all covered electronic devices collected from consumers in this state during the previous program year. The department may adjust, and we will only do this once, but we may adjust each manufacturer's market share and weight obligation based on the total weight in pounds actually collected in the program year. And each manufacturer will be responsible for its proportionate share so that the manufacturer's obligation will be its market share and weight based on the actual amount of covered electronic devices collected in the program year. The first time we can calculate the actual weight collected is going to be for program year 2018. We will use the semi-annual reports submitted in August of 2018 and February of 2019 to compute the actual number of CEDs collected in New Jersey. This includes collections inside the manufacturer system, meaning from those sites included in the approved manufacturer plans, as well as government sites operating outside any manufacturer collection plan. So again, a manufacturer is responsible for its proportionate share of weight of CEDs based on the actual weight of covered electronic devices collected in the program year. Next slide. Manufacturers that collect CEDs in excess of their obligation may generate credits. Credits generated in 1 year may only be used in the subsequent program year. A manufacturer is limited to selling or applying credits for a 1-year time frame. In the case of overcollection, manufacturers can keep or sell credits, and manufacturers can apply credits to no more than 25% of its obligation for the following year. Next slide. In the case of undercollection, manufacturers can use credits, buy credits, purchase weight collected outside the system, or pay a shortfall fee. DEP will develop a web-based credit tracking system, and obviously, as long as the manufacturers recycle their portion of the reduced pie, there will be no shortfall fee assessed if aggregate waste generation was less than what the DEP estimated. Next slide. About the shortfall fee, it's pretty serious business. Basically, failure of a manufacturer to collect, transport, and recycle its market share in weight will subject the manufacturer to the assessment of a fee of 50 cents per pound times its entire market share in weight obligation. This is in addition to enforcement actions and penalties and fees assessed due to noncompliance in other areas. Next slide. On to April 15th. The date when manufacturers and group plan administrators are required to submit a plan to the department to collect, transport, and recycle CEDs. And finally, semi-annual reports for the period ending July 1st are due on August 1st from all reporting entities. Next slide. On to the process. To be clear, we will move to the collection obligation determination overhaul to all market share for 2018. The final 2017 market share and return share based obligations issued in the fall of 2016 will not be revised, but we have implemented the department's increased authority to determine sufficiency and convenience of collection sites for these 2017 obligations. I think it's appropriate to take a moment to acknowledge that the manufacturers met the challenge and returned New Jersey's program to pre-CRT market crash numbers of over 400 sites. Next slide. Okay, the revised and clarified definitions of consumer and of CED take effect in 2018, and so does the disposal ban on desktop printers and fax machines. The revised definition of CED is pretty straightforward. It includes desktop printers and fax machines. The revised statutory definition of consumer means a person, local government units, state entities, school districts, and small businesses. Next slide. The next few slides will cover registration, collection plan, and semi-annual report submission updates. Feel free to write it all down or type it up, but you don't have to because each interested party will receive an email that includes all the details you need to know. Registration. A $5,000 fee and form is required for manufacturers of CED computers, CED TVs, and CED desktop printers and fax machines issued a market share. What changed is that in the past, if a manufacturer produced more than one type of CED, a separate fee of $5,000 per product was required. The revised law decreased the fee to only $5,000 per manufacturer, regardless of the number of CED types a manufacturer produces. Manufacturers of newly covered CED desktop printers and fax machines and manufacturers not previously registered are required to register for 2017 by July 13th, which is the statutory registration requirement based on receiving notification on June 13th of a market share. All CED manufacturers issued a 2018 estimated obligation must renew registration by January 1st, 2018. Next slide. Authorized recyclers are required to submit an annual registration form and fee of $15,000 due on or before January 1st. As part of the changes of the revised law, all authorized recyclers operating in New Jersey that do not currently hold a New Jersey Class D electronic recycling center approval are required to register and pay the fee. Again, all authorized recyclers except approved Class D electronic recycling centers that accept covered electronic devices from a consumer in New Jersey must register with the department and pay the registration fee. Frank issued by email on July 6th the authorized recycler registration notification and form to known authorized recyclers operating in 2017. Authorized recyclers operating in 2017 are required to register by August 10th, 1 month from today. If you have not received this email, please let us know. Also, if it hasn't already happened, the authorized recycler notification and form will be sent to all manufacturers issued obligations in both 2017 and 2018 to please forward as appropriate. The authorized recycler registration requirement of the revised act is in effect for program year 2017. And manufacturers must ensure that authorized recyclers used in 2017 plans are registered. In the future, in order to be fully compliant, manufacturers must also ensure that authorized recyclers used in future plans meet the registration requirements. If I have not already been abundantly clear, unless you meet the exemption requirements, if you are not registered as an authorized recycler in New Jersey, you are not authorized to collect CEDs from New Jersey consumers. Next slide. Covered electronic device manufacturers given an estimated weight obligation are either individually or as part of a group required to submit collection plans each year to the department to collect, transport, and recycle their market share and weight for the program year. The program year 2018 plans are due 2 months after weight-based estimates are issued. DEP this past week received comments followed by updated market share information that will require further analysis, so it will take us a little bit more time to evaluate the data and issue these estimates. Again, the plans are due 2 months after weight-based estimates are issued, and collection plans are required to be submitted electronically. When I say electronically, I do not mean by email. Collection plans will only be accepted if submitted online via NJDEP Online, which I sometimes refer to as the portal. Next slide. If you have not already created an NJDEP Online account, configured your online services, and added your company, please see the new user instructions found at the link up there. Also, certain collection plan requirements include that a manufacturer that chooses to submit a collection plan as part of a group shall at least 20 days prior to the submittal of each group collection plan participate in the preparation and submission to the department of a group designation form found at the link seen on the screen. Collection plan guidelines and certification templates to be uploaded, as the narrative portion of the plan can be found at this link. And please note that required collection center specific information has changed since the development of the online system. So when prompted to insert this information online, you will not complete that section through the portal. Instead, when I issue the estimated weight obligations, I will include an Excel spreadsheet called collection site template, and you will upload that as an attachment as well. Next slide. Speaking of collection sites, due to the expanded definition of consumer, there are certain universal waste rule requirements applicable to covered electronic device collection centers. With the passage of the amendments to the Electronic Waste Management Act, specifically the inclusion of state entities, school districts, and local governments in the definition of consumer, additional requirements may have to be met by certain types of collection centers. Collection sites that accept only residential or household CEDs have no new requirements. However, as has always been the case, and to reemphasize, the collectors of CEDs must comply with the management standards applicable to both small quantity and large quantity handlers of universal wastes, in a way that prevents releases to the environment. Collection centers that accept covered electronic devices, including non-residential sources, such as a state entity, school district, or local government, must comply with the requirements of universal waste handlers, large quantity or small quantity. In addition to complying with the management standards that prevent releases to the environment, collection centers that accumulate 5,000 kilograms or more of CEDs from non-residential sources at any time must obtain an EPA ID number from the department and submit a notification of New Jersey Universal Waste Handler activities on the form found here. This is a very simple, unobtrusive process. It's not a permit, there are no fees, it's just a notification. Next slide. Although we are not changing the collection obligations for 2017, we are requiring semi-annual reporting from each entity as required by the amendments. Fillable PDF forms have been created and are in the final forms of revisions. They are nice and easy to complete, and the fillable PDF format will help us easily access and sort the information. Speaking of the semi-annual reporting information, we here at DEP are reasonable folks, so if we're delayed in issuing the forms, we will simply delay the due dates. Please do the best you can. We understand that not all of the required information may be accessible to you, but let's consider this our test run to ease our way into 2018 full implementation and iron out any remaining wrinkles. Next slide. One more thing. Scott stated, and I want to very clearly reiterate, from where we stand right now and into the foreseeable future, the department has absolutely no mechanism in place for reimbursement of covered electronic devices collected outside of the manufacturer's system. So please do not submit a bill to us. But in order to ensure your collection site, county or municipal site, is not charged, be sure to enter into a contract with an authorized recycler that is included in an approved manufacturer plan and confirm that your county or municipal site is listed as a collection site in an approved plan. Next slide. Again, we have high hopes that all of the changes to the law will lead to greater success and stand the test of time. That said, the law allows the department to develop a statewide standard plan if the department deems it necessary to the success of the program. We have received comments and are actively considering them during the development of the statewide standard plan. And that's it. And on behalf of the DEP, I thank you again for being here and welcome any thoughts, questions, comments that you may have. Guy Watson.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, I get it about the non-reimbursement to municipalities, but as I recall, there is that, excuse me, there is that provision in the amendments that allows a town, so notwithstanding the standard plan or whatever, that if a town does, or no, notwithstanding the plans that may be submitted by manufacturers, if a town wants to engage in recycling activities of e-waste, that they will be reimbursed, and I know what you said, at the rate that the standard plan will pay. So I realize you're not going to do that, but how are you going to communicate that? And I also realize you just said, well, you know, if a town wants to maintain a collection site, they need to try to negotiate whatever with a manufacturer, an authorized recycler, whatever. But what if they can't for whatever reason? But I do believe there is still that provision in the Act that would allow them for some type of reimbursement.
Well, I'm not familiar with that provision. That might have been in a version of it that was happening before you left. But I mean, the manufacturers ultimately want to engage the collection site locations because that weight is going to count towards their obligation. So the
Understood.
ultimately, yeah, the manufacturers are going to have to negotiate with the other collection sites that are located outside of their plans in order to get or purchase that weight.
Well, let's just say, I don't know, West Amwell.
Yes.
Small town, whatever,
Mhm.
somebody says it's just not efficient for us to be there, but West Amwell wants to provide that service to its residents. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to put anybody, put you on the point or anything. I just wondered if that had been thought about.
I mean, they are going to have to pay for it and the manufacturers are going to be responsible for it, but the mechanism that those two entities connect is between them. We are outside of that.
Just to follow up on Guy's question, if a town does want to participate, who do they reach out to? How do they get on that magic list so they are included into into some manufacturer's plan?
You know what? At this time, we are going to assemble the panel in the front of the room, and Dana will be part of that panel. Give us a few minutes, and the webinar audience should be open up to questions any moment now, and you can type in your questions. So let's have Zafar, Jen, Dana, and Frank at the front. And thank you, Dana, for the very informative and detailed talk.
I'll answer that. Who asked the question?
Right here.
Oh, Monica, thank you. Say the question one more time, Monica. Sorry.
Now, just to follow up on Guy's question, what if we have a town that isn't included in someone's current plan? How do they get in? Who do they reach out to? How do they contact someone? Where do they start to say, hey, I want to have a program. Where do I go? I want to make sure my stuff is covered at no cost.
Great question. The easy answer is to email a representative from the department, Dana, Frank, anybody here. They will get you in touch with the list of authorized recyclers, with the list of manufacturers. These are the folks who need their pounds to complete their obligation out there, and they will get you in touch with them, as we have done in the past and successfully done, connected those that want to operate a collection site with those that need those pounds of waste, and we will put those two together. Okay? I think what we're trying to communicate regarding this billing thing is that the department has not developed a mechanism to, and Guy, this is to your point too. Guy, pay attention, Guy. Pay attention. the department does not have a mechanism in place to calculate the price that anyone could charge for this e-waste recycling. So we're not in a position to know what that price is. Manufacturers have a price, others may have a price. We don't know. We're not involved in the economics of that. So we have not and will not determine the price for recycling a pound of e-waste. So that's why Dana appropriately said connect to the others in the industry to get your devices recycled and your collection sites sponsored by a recycler and a manufacturer.
And in addition to contacting any one of us, there will be information on our websites on all the manufacturers and their contact information, which you can contact any of the manufacturers you want to contact to get into their plan and arrange between yourselves, between the manufacturers and the township.
Okay. The problem we have is just being down south, there aren't many options for us, and most we've been told that it's very difficult for them to come down to provide services to some of our towns and counties down south.
Yeah, that's one of the changes that we have this year, that we determine the sufficiency and convenience of collection sites, and this year you will see many more sites in your counties, especially in the south, which will be convenient for you, we believe. It's a continuous process of improving. If we see more problems, we will definitely take care of it, either during the program year or in the next program year.
We do appreciate you working with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. We're listed as an authorized recycler in some OEM plans, and the material is not actually coming to our facility. We're working with a subcontractor to process that material. I just wanted to know, like, this law is going, well, this implementation is going in halfway through the year. If we have the ability to list our subcontractor as the authorized recycler, because we're acting as more of like in a management capacity, and like they would pay the fee versus us. We are a recycler, but just no New Jersey material is coming into our facility. So I guess I'm trying to, I don't know if that's our call or your call, who is the authorized recycler, or if it's, I don't know, silence.
So they're the ones who are actually recycling and you're just acting as the broker?
We have the relationship with the manufacturer. We have the relationship with the subcontractor. Manufacturer pays us. We pay the collector. We pay the subcontractor who's doing the recycling. Like, we never physically, it doesn't come into our facility. We never physically touch. We pay the transporter. But right now we're listed as the recycler. So I'm not, I guess if we chose to, would it be possible to list the other? I just don't know if it's our choice or your choice.
Well, I don't think, I'm not
work.
sure that you would actually be the authorized recycler. I think that who is actually doing the recycling would be the authorized recycler.
Okay. Okay, we have the relationship with the OEM, though. We're listed in the plan currently.
But you're not actually physically recycling.
We subcontract the work out.
Yeah, you are the collector, if I understand you correctly. Yeah.
She's like the
We're
broker.
not the
They're
collector.
You're the brokers.
Kind of.
Kind of. We're like a management company / yes.
Okay.
We're brokering to a certain degree.
Okay, but if you call it an authorized recyclers, they must be registered with DEP. That is number one requirement.
Okay.
And number two, they have to be in a manufacturer's plan to be reimbursed by the manufacturer through you or directly.
Okay. So it wouldn't be us. It's the person physically handling the equipment. Okay.
Yeah, they would have to be
Right.
listed in the plan as the authorized
Okay.
recycler.
And then alternatively, if you have a company has a mail-back program, and I ask you this on the phone, and you're like,
can
ask it
I
to me.
interrupt
Yeah.
just before we move on?
Sure.
Just like to also say in response to that question, that sounds like a bit of a legal question that we may want to consider
In
a little
writing.
more carefully. Yeah, so if you wouldn't mind,
That's
we
fine.
want to give you the best answer and the right answer. So if you wouldn't mind submitting that as you want to state it in writing
Okay.
to us, and we'll post the answer. But we think that we may best give that a little careful consideration, so we
Okay.
answer it just
Well,
once.
this next question,
Okay.
you're going to say the same,
Okay.
but I'll ask you.
I'll let you ask it before we say that.
Possibly. Okay, so if an OEM has a mail-back program and they receive material from New Jersey, it's a voluntary mail-back program. They've been doing it for a long time. They get material. It's only 1,500 pounds per se a year. Is there a threshold? They still have to pay $15,000 even though it's 1,500 pounds of weight.
Right. There's no threshold in the law. If you're recycling material from New Jersey, you're an
Like
authorized
1
recycler.
pound you're in.
Yeah, I mean, they might not want to count that weight since it's minimal in a voluntary program, but that in order for it to count, it would have to be through an authorized recycler who's
Okay.
registered.
So then, when you talked about in April, I guess, when you give out the amounts collected in the prior year, like during the stakeholder meetings, you called it the true up.
Yes, we did.
So is that true up figure, is that coming from what's only reported by authorized folks on all levels, or are you going to look at what's outside as well?
We are going to look at what's outside of a manufacturer collection plan. So the local government units are required to report as well, whether or not they're in a manufacturer's plan.
Okay. Okay, so I'll write you the letter tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thank you.
While you're running the microphone, I'm going to read a question from a webinar participant. A 4-part question from Robert Sanders. Number 1, do recyclers outside of New Jersey need to be registered? Sounds like an easy one. You guys?
Yes. Any recycler that's accepting New Jersey weight from New Jersey consumers needs to be registered.
So that's a yes. Number 2, what about collectors that are not themselves performing recycling operations but only ship the equipment to our recyclers who may be in New York, for instance?
both the recycler and the collector has to be in a manufacturer's plan?
Both the recycler and the collector need to be in the plan.
Right.
Number 3, what is the de minimis market share for a manufacturer to avoid the registration fee or any other requirements?
The 100 units factor fell out of this law, but manufacturers are only issued a market share if their market share is greater than 0.01%. So if you did not receive an estimated market share, then you don't need to register.
Okay. And last, what is the source of the market share data being used by the DEP?
We purchased the national sales data through Jason Linnell at ERCC, who used IDC. It's a market research firm.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience before we answer this next webinar question?
Thank you. My name is Alan Weston. I'm the Legislative Director with the Association of Counties. I'm sitting here with a bunch of my county folks. We put about 3.5 years of work into getting this done, so we'd like to thank you at the DEP for your support and your work behind the scenes on this. My question to you is the question that I've been getting asked at all the county coordinator meetings is, what do we do with the printers and fax machines we're getting right now? Because my understanding, the letter of the law, they should be covered electronic devices now, but we understand there's obviously some delay, some lag time between implementing the changes to the law, getting all those new manufacturers registered, determining their obligations. So what do we tell my county folks, some of whom may be not taking printers and fax machines, some of whom may be taking them but paying for them to be recycled? What is it that we're supposed to be doing in this interim period before the full rollout in 2018?
You want to answer that? I mean, we're implementing the printer and fax machine portion of the law for 2018. I don't know. I don't really have anything other than that.
I guess if they bring it to the collection sites, you cannot refuse to take it. And probably you should count that weight and report it separately. And let's get back to you.
Okay.
That's what we could say.
Another audience question?
Just wanted a clarification on market share determination, because under the new law, market share covers all CEDs. Previous years, you did separate market share for television versus other CEDs. Going forward, will it just be all one category?
No, that's actually, I don't know if you heard me say, we used to call it TVs and others. Now we're separating it into CED, TVs, CED computers, and CED printers and fax machines, and each individual type will receive a market share.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Another webinar person, Jeff Howell, wants to know, to reconfirm, anyone selling the newly covered CEDs, like desktop printers, will be required to pay the fee and register on the portal by July 13th, 2017, with no non-portal option?
Manufacturers of newly covered CEDs that were not registered already for 2017 will be required to submit a registration. If it is your initial registration, we accept those hard copy. We need them hard copy first in order to input that data into our system. And that pretty much answers the question.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience here? And then we'll go back to another
I'd like
webinar.
to take this opportunity to clarify my previous comment, if I could. Reading.
Can you cite whatever you're reading so I can
Yeah. It's new section 6D. The department or the administrator for the statewide standard program shall reimburse a local government unit that collects or transports blah, blah, blah. So I would take that to mean, but defer to Lisa on this, that in the event there is a statewide plan,
Yes.
then a town that is not otherwise in the plan can get reimbursed, but doesn't necessarily hold true for not a statewide plan.
True.
Sorry about my earlier comment.
No, that's okay. It's good.
Okay, from online, the webinar from Amy Bernstein. You mentioned that semi-annual reporting will be required in 2017. That would only apply to manufacturers who received a collection obligation in 2017, correct? For instance, that is not manufacturers or newly covered CEDs if they didn't receive a 2017 obligation.
Yes, that's correct. Only manufacturers that received an obligation are required to submit the semi-annual report.
Okay, the next one is truncated. Printers and faxes until January 2018, are they CEDs?
The new definition of printers and fax machines takes effect in 2018, and so does the disposal ban on those materials.
Okay, back to the audience. Can you please identify yourself and your affiliation?
Hi, my name is Andriana. I'm from Sims. I just wanted to know the shortfall fee. If there is a shortfall, they pay not the shortfall amount, the 50 cents.
The entire.
All right.
The shortfall
That is
fee,
draconian. That's all. Thank you.
Totally.
Another webinar. I hope you didn't lose audio. That's Jack Getsky's question. Linda Kronbach wants to know, can non-CEDs be landfilled?
I would never recommend it, but it's not illegal.
Okay, from Greg Chasen, to clarify, another clarification. A currently registered TV manufacturer that also sells desktop printers simply needs to go to the portal and add printers, but will pay no additional fees?
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay. Anybody else from the audience with questions for our panel? Repeat the question. The question was, to clarify, a currently registered TV manufacturer that also sells desktop printers simply needs to go to the portal and add printers, but will pay no additional fees? And Dana answered,
That's true.
that's correct. From our audience?
Hi, Fred Stanger, Middlesex County. I still have some of our towns that are acting as drop-off sites saying that they're still incurring a cost through their labor. Has that been considered?
Well, that's always being considered, and if they're listed as a collection site in manufacturer plans, that's an issue. So you need to tell us who it is specifically, and we'll review our list and connect you with the right people.
Okay, thank you.
Jerome Sheehan, Burlington County. When it comes to authorized recyclers, in regards to junkyards that are receiving, covered electronic devices, are they included as authorized recyclers at that point, or non-authorized?
Well, the junkyards do not really recycle the way we intend them to recycle electronics, but if they do it the proper way, they can register as authorized recyclers through a manufacturer's plan or outside of the manufacturer's plan, whatever the case may be. But they have to meet the definition of authorized recyclers. That's in the statute.
All right, so if they're unauthorized recyclers, can they accept the material, the covered electronic devices then?
No. To be able to accept CEDs from New Jersey consumers, the authorized recycler must be registered with DEP. They have to be authorized.
Thank you.
Hi. I have a few questions. First of all, and you, Zephyr, you just started answering that, but previously you talked about a collector and a recycler both having to be an authorized recycler?
Just a collector had to be in the plan.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Dave Hirschler from ERI.
Yeah.
So, okay, so just the collector is in the plan, and then whoever's actually processing the material is the authorized. Okay,
Correct.
just wanted to clarify that part. The second part, and going back to Fred's comment about labor, is there a plan to come out with some sort of definition of what's expected of a collection site? So, for example, if the town is asked to package material so it's safe for transport, I think historically that's been considered okay, provided the manufacturers are providing transport and providing the packaging and providing the recycling at no cost. And I just wasn't sure if there was any update on that.
And that sounds like the same question on here. I have the same question. Our sites are doing all the work. Are authorized recyclers supposed to pack, wrap, et cetera, CEDs?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And this kind of reached a crescendo early last year. So in January of 17, the department issued a pretty comprehensive, legally researched letter that laid out all of those different responsibilities at a collection site, who had to pay for what. And if I recall, and we can get you the letter, we're getting the letter, but I think it came down to the collection site was responsible for ensuring that those devices and the contents of those devices were not exposed to the environment. but the manufacturer or their authorized recycler, whatever the case may be, was responsible for all other costs incurred at that collection facility. And we're happy to refer anyone to that letter if you'd like to actually see it. We go through the law, and that's the conclusions that we came to.
Okay. All right. I have one more, but it sounds like that is causing other hands raising, so we can let people. All right, fine. So my last question is also about there was some discussion in the letters that came out a few months ago about definition of convenience and where the expectations were for a plan moving forward beyond just one per collection site. Is there any guidance beyond those letters that's going to come out?
Not at the moment. We don't have any guidance.
That was a no to the webinar audience. Over here. Please identify yourself and your affiliation.
Lisa with Vintage Tech Recyclers.
Thank you.
Just a quick question to clarify what you had said then. So if the collector is responsible for ensuring that it's essentially not in the elements and whatnot, is the collection site then therefore responsible for the building or the housing of the material, whether it be a cargo container or things like that? Are they responsible for that cost?
I would say, and I'll refer you to the letter for the detail, but my recollection's conclusion was that was a reasonable application of that, is that there needs to be some protection from the elements, that these devices are not exposed to them and their contents could be released to the environment. That sounds like a reasonable conclusion to that. All right?
Lisa again with Vintage Tech, and just a question for clarity, and maybe I'm misunderstanding some previous data, but so we know that collectors, whether they're in a plan or not, report back to the state. And then we also know that the department is able to identify collectors who are listed in a plan. So through simple tracking, you can say there's a collection point here, there's a collection point there. We are always under the assumption that it's better to not have them pay, the municipals and whatnot. That's not their goal. But are you able to identify those people who aren't in a plan that are currently paying, that don't necessarily want to go back because they've either earmarked budgetary funds for it? And I mean, what's doing to track? How are we tracking that, or how are you guys tracking that? You know what I'm asking?
Are you asking how we're tracking those collection site locations not in a plan?
Not in a plan, and who are currently paying a fee to a recycler for their current program.
Lisa, use the mic, please.
Oh.
I mean, Dana, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So we don't currently have a form to be completed, but like Fred just stood up and said some of his towns are still paying. He'll let us know which towns they are, and we'll go back to the plans in the collection sites in the plans and, confirm. I think at some point Jen tracked all of our towns and counties. I don't know that we have all of the towns and counties that are paying outside of a plan, but it's information that's out there that we can get. We don't have any formal mechanism to track it, though.
What motivates my question is we've worked diligently to try to have good coverage statewide.
Sure.
But in doing that, you're sometimes up against you're talking to some communities that are like, you know what, I'm paying for somebody, they're coming and getting it, and that's what at the end of the day, that's what I want to do. So in essence, if you're requiring a site in a county or a municipal, but yet they're paying for it, are you still lack of coverage there? You know where I'm going with that question?
I do know where you're going.
I know you know.
I mean, the intent of the law is to have the manufacturers cover the cost of recycling CEDs in New Jersey, so.
I'm going to read a last webinar question from Jonathan Doyle. Are manufacturers required to pay collection sites for material collected above the manufacturer's annual weight requirement? If so, what prevents material from being transported outside of New Jersey to collection sites within New Jersey?
Well, just to be clear, beginning in 2018, the weight obligations that we issue well, right. So we're going to issue, we're in the process of calculating the estimated weight obligations for 2018. We'll actually do a true up. So there's really no above. It's everything that's actually collected in New Jersey is going to have to be recycled.
And that's one of the things that the new law does. In old days, when the manufacturers met their obligation, they stopped collecting. They could stop collecting and said, we are done with it. But now they cannot stop collecting. At their authorized or listed collection sites, they have to keep it open as long as covered electronic devices are delivered to those collection sites. So they are responsible for collection of those.
Yes.
Okay.
If the collection sites are I'm Mary Jo Aiello, Solid and Hazardous Waste. If a collection site has to be in a manufacturer's plan, there's generally some form of contract, and there could be some ability to require, as Mr. Watson made fun of my town earlier, if I want to take a television to my town, I have to show my identification to drop my television off. So that's a detail that I think the manufacturers need to work through with their collection site locations. If I understood it correctly, they're worried that people in Pennsylvania will be bringing their televisions over to a collection site in New Jersey, and the manufacturers would just have to keep paying.
Yes.
Right.
So that is a detail the collection sites should be working out with the manufacturers.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, this is Kim from Reverse Logistics Group Americas. You said in your presentation that credits generated in one year may only be used in the subsequent program year.
Correct.
Does this include credits generated prior to the amendment?
I think it was determined that, yeah, I mean, credits generated in 2017 can be applied to 2018.
How about credits generated in 2016 or 2015?
Nothing past 2017 for the old law.
So basically any credits on the books need to be used by next year, 2018.
By this year, I think.
By this year. Okay. I have a second question. Previously, collection plans needed to be submitted under manufacturer accounts. Will this still be the case, or will you open up the portal to be used by group plan administrators?
I heard that we are able to use the group plan administrators. I don't know if that update has happened yet, so we'll keep you apprised of all of that information.
Okay, and a follow-up online from, oops, where did that go? Jonathan Doyle, what prevents collection sites from pulling material in from other states? Anyone?
Yeah, it's the same comment that Mary Jo just...
And that's the same person with a follow-up.
Right, so the collection sites would probably want to look at IDs of those dropping their material off to prevent out-of-state material from being dropped off at their site.
Okay, from Peter Leone, are printers sold primarily to businesses deemed covered devices subject to recycling in 2018, or does the law apply to only consumer devices?
That depends. If the business is a small business, they're considered a consumer.
Okay. From Linda Krumbach, how would a collection site work out the details with a manufacturer or out-of-state TV, et cetera, coming into a New Jersey county?
I think I just responded to that one.
Okay, but the Pennsylvania person brings TVs, et cetera, to their New Jersey vacation home. Do you understand that?
Well, yeah, she's Cape May, so she has a lot of out-of-state.
Okay.
I don't know what else I can say to that.
Okay. Anybody else in this audience with a question? Oh, here we go.
Hi, Patrick with MRM.
Hey, Patrick.
My question is, who is ultimately responsible for the reporting of the collection sites and the recyclers? Does it ultimately fall to the manufacturer plan, or are collection sites responsible for their own reporting. As you know, we have 196 collection sites in our plan. Are we ultimately responsible for ensuring those collection sites report, or are they of their own accord?
I mean, I think you want to be, as a representative of the manufacturers, ultimately responsible, but each entity has to report. You want to be
Sure. I guess my question is, if a collection site doesn't report, are we still able to count that weight?
I mean, we'd have to reconcile that. We're going to have an online system ultimately that hopefully we can just press buttons and we'll find out who didn't report and then ask them to report. So, does that answer your question?
Dana, Linda has another follow-up question on the last one that you answered about bringing CEDs in from out of state. She said, but you said work it out with the, I think she meant to type manufacturer as opposed to the recycler. I guess she's looking for clarification on who she's supposed to work out that situation with when she's bringing material from out of state.
We'll take all of these questions and create a frequently asked question document, so we'll be able to provide better clarity too. And if anybody else here has any questions that they don't feel like asking but wants to shoot us an email, we'll take that as well.
That's great. To your email, Dana, on your contact info.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hello. Wayne DeFeo, Essex County. First, thank you for your job today and for all the work you've done, but I do want to reiterate one question. I know it's beating a dead horse, the issue of CEDs, printers, faxes et al. I know we've had some conflicting answers, but as Scott started with, statute trumps rule. Statute says CEDs are covered in 30 days. I don't know how the department can legally delay to 2018 what the statute mandates in 30 days. I'm not asking you to answer it, but you're going to prepare a written answer. Just consider that.
Thank you.
Okay, two more online. Another from Peter Leone. Follow-up question. What is the definition of a small business? Are printers sold to schools covered as well? Thank you.
Printers sold to schools are considered a covered electronic device. And then the definition of a small business means any business which has its principal place of business in the state, is independently owned and operated, and employs the equivalent of fewer than 50 full-time employees.
Thank you. From Beth Johnson, if a manufacturer rejects collection due to it originating from outside New Jersey, will that volume be excluded from DEP's true-up process?
Yeah, only weight collected from New Jersey consumers is going to be considered as part of the weight that's collected.
Okay. That's it for the webinar questions. Any more in-house questions? It looks like a yes. Tentative yes question.
I have another collection network question. So in terms of schools, you mentioned in your presentation that if a collection site does not accept from schools and local governments, it doesn't have to register. But is the convenience standard going to be defined differently for those consumers than from residents?
You know, I'm not really sure there's going to be any collection sites that don't accept from all consumers. So we have to talk about it and determine. I don't have an answer for that right this second. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that will go into FAQs.
So, yeah, I mean, we can provide that. But essentially, if we've got a collection network, which includes small municipalities and places that may not have the ability to accept from a state government entity or a school, we want to make sure that the convenience standard isn't rejecting those sites because they're not accepting from all consumers. I think the convenience is defined for residents, and then there's the there's the definition of consumers that's different from convenience for residents.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
I believe that as part of the manufacturer's plan approval, it will become a requirement that all the collection centers should accept all types of CEDs from all types of consumers.
Right.
Right.
I mean, that's what we've discussed.
Hi, Fred Stanger again, Middlesex County. So we have a number of municipalities that are accepting material CEDs under an authorized plan, but will only take material coming from their own town. All right, and we have a significant town in Middlesex County that doesn't have a program at all. So there's about 100,000 people that have no place to bring a TV at zero cost. Will things change, and do you think that these sites will then be obligated to take any town resident?
Well, when we review the plans, we have to consider the capacity at each site, but I think things are moving in that direction. I mean, we have around 260 municipal sites. I think we have, how many county sites do we have? From 51 sites collect from all county residents, and I think we have around 28 sites that collect from anyone in the state. So we're moving in that direction. Your residents should have some place within a pretty generally convenient vicinity to drop off their TV. I would,
Just want to make sure two things, that convenient and sufficient does not mean there's a collection site in every town, okay? So that's one thing. And the second one is, just to clarify, there's no intention of the department to force municipalities that are sponsoring collection sites for only their residents to expand that to take material from other towns or other residents. Okay, so let's be clear on that. All right. So Middlesex County, we know they have some collection days and collection events, and that's one of the primary ways that the county is ensuring that there is sufficient and convenient collection in addition to all the municipal sites. They county indicated that that's works well for them, is to have these collection days and collection events. So that's predominantly what Middlesex County has on a county basis, in addition to their municipal sites. All right, Fred?
Thank you, Scott. From online, from Linda Krumbach. Will Dana's presentation have more than the bullet points? She said a lot of information that we'd like to see.
Yeah, the presentation won't necessarily have more than the bullet points, but every interested party will receive detailed emails with the information that I spoke about.
Thank you. Again, from her, what necessity would prompt NJDEP to administer a statewide plan?
Failure of the system.
Okay, failure of the system was the answer. From Melinda Williams, does a county collection site have to accept from all entities, including schools, small businesses, government entities, as well as residents?
Yes.
Yes?
Answer is yes.
Answer is yes. From Doug Smith, will DEP begin working on a standard plan, or at what point will DEP decide that a standard plan is necessary? Scott Brubaker will answer that.
Great question. Will DEP begin working on a standard plan, or at what point will DEP decide that a standard plan is necessary? DEP is already working on a potential state plan if we need one. Okay, we have a person right now that is researching other states, seeing how that would apply to our law here. So we will have the capacity to implement a state plan if we need to. However, we do not intend to, we do not want to until and unless we conclude that the current system is failing to provide reasonably sufficient and convenient collection and recycling of e-waste in New Jersey.
A follow-up to Melinda Williams' last question about does a county collection site have to accept from all entities? Is that starting in 2018?
Yes, that begins in 2018.
Thank you. Yep.
I just wanted to know if collection sites have to take all products, all covered products.
All collection sites have to take all products.
Okay.
Yes. I was just thinking, like this.
Should I say that even the retail sites?
Right. There's. I know, that's what I was thinking about. I don't know. Well, we have to consider a lot, so.
Okay, so there'll be like written clarification?
We'll write clarification on it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Last call. Any more questions from the audience? Yes.
Currently, Dana, do all counties have one site right now that is covered by a manufacturer plan and not paying?
If there is not a county-wide site, there's at least one statewide site. Is there?
That they're
Is
not
there any
paying?
without a county site?
There's some without a county site.
Okay, but they have statewide coverage?
They have free coverage somewhere?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
They're, excuse me, I don't have a voice. So every county has a free collection site. Every county.
Every county has at least one collection site that takes material from any resident of that county.
For free?
For free.
They're not paying?
The residents are paying.
No, the county is still paying.
Well, it might not be a county site. It might be a Salvation Army or a Goodwill.
But so the manufacturer's plan are not covering all the counties yet?
The manufacturer's plan cover every resident statewide.
Okay?
The manufacturer's plan covers all the residents in New Jersey. There are some municipal sites, there are some county-wide sites, and there are some statewide sites. All of them are included in the manufacturer's plan.
But if counties are being charged and they're included in the manufacturer's plan, then that's an issue. That we need to connect the county and the manufacturer and their recycler and have that worked out, which we've done in the past and which we'll continue to do, and we always want to communicate with you guys about that.
Okay, from the webinar, again, from Linda Kronbach, do collection sites have to take non-covered devices?
No.
No. And from Doug Smith, why is the shortfall fee not assessed on the actual shortfall?
It's the way the law was written.
It's the law. That's an easy answer. From the back of the room?
Ron, ACUA. Let's just take Goodwill for an example. We have two of them. One's in Hamilton and one's in Egg Harbor Township. If somebody goes there with more than 2 items, they're not going to take it, and that's how it's always been. They're not going to take stuff from the school. They're not going to take multiple printers. So really, I don't see that ever happening. And they're the ones supposed to be taking everything. So who in my county takes everything? And luckily for us, we have the cities that want to continue doing it, and the majority of them still have a program. But like I pay, but we have 200 employees, but that's only our computers in reference to getting them recycled.
All right.
But for the residents or the schools, because we're going to field the phone calls, no one can go to any Goodwill with more than 2 TVs a day. And of course, you got guys do clean outs and they turn them away all the time.
Right.
And then recently we had someone complain in Northfield that they wouldn't get their TV picked up from Salvation Army, but I haven't had a chance to go there to confirm that because I don't know what their limit is in reference to how far they go pick up any electronics for that matter.
Right. So these are where the lines of communication need to stay open because we here at the DEP don't always know what's happening on the ground. As long as you keep telling us, we'll keep asking the manufacturers.
Because even if we're into 2018, that concerns me.
Right.
I mean,
No, and that's
I go behind the Goodwill all the time and I talk to the managers, and of course, we have a good record. You know, we always talk to Bob Hain, and if there's an issue, he normally would handle it. But I don't see any Goodwill able to take anything more than 2 items at a time if somebody does go there. Because the manager personally told me that. Of course, you get people going there with steak bodies and all, and I understand they turn them away.
Keep talking to us because we're going to have to consider that in review of the 2018 plans.
Thank you.
Another question from the audience.
It's Patrick with MRM. You mentioned the statewide collection plan and that you've already started working and planning for that. Who in the department's working on that, and are you doing any stakeholder meetings to do regarding implementations or questions on that? And when do you think you'd have a decision by?
Bosses?
We don't have any more information from you at that point. That's an internal department discussion and decision and doesn't need to be made for the general public.
I just wanted to respond in terms of county collections versus state collections and at-home pickups. At ERI we have at least a county collection in just about every single county, and I know the other counties have collections as well. We when we aren't able to contract directly with the county, we do contract with places like the Salvation Army, and we're pretty strict with them in terms of making sure that they're not rejecting material. At-home pickups are not requirement under the law unless it's under specific requirements, but they do also offer that if you meet the challenge issues. And so I think, and the folks at the state have been pretty great at letting us know if there are any issues. But if you hear of any issues where your residents are being rejected, we'd want to know that so we can clarify, because it is sometimes an education piece. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, in certain cases, or not unfortunately, I think it's actually a benefit to the state that there are non-municipal collection sites throughout the state that really are able to help build the infrastructure and not entirely rely on municipal and county collections. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I know that that does come up sometimes, that it's, you know, when we're planning out and making sure that we have the convenient structure required, that we do keep those into account. And we're pretty strict with our partners to make sure that they follow the requirements.
Are there any more questions? Oh, here's another one another couple online from Rich Vernum. If a manufacturer collects, recycles 80% of their obligation, are they really assessed a 50 cents per pound penalty on 100% of their obligation?
Yes.
Yes. From Linda, but Staples under ERI only takes computers?
Right.
Yes.
We understand.
Okay. Does our studio audience have any more questions? Okay, I think that concludes our training. Thanks to our speakers, thanks to our panel. Great job. Thanks to our audience for coming and for listening. Have a great day, everybody.
I know, I remember you. What's going on? Yeah. Hi guys.